The nutritional challenges in Nigeria, according to research, include poor dietary quality, high prevalence of malnutrition in all its forms, limited data to assess the nutrition situation, high inflation on the cost of food items, and inadequate progress in meeting the 2030 nutrition targets. It is pertinent that we begin to address these issues in order to achieve optimum nutritional standards for our population. This is the focus on this episode of Healthy Living on Trust Television. I'm Aisha Salihu. Let's cross over to have a broader insight on the subject with an expert. Thank you so much, Ma, for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Now, we have a lot of nutritional challenges in Nigeria, and as a matter of fact, we're at the risk of not reaching our 2030 nutrition target. I'd like to hear from you. I know we have the challenges already. I'd like to hear from you as an expert. What would you say are the factors that contribute to these nutritional challenges we're having in our country at the moment?
Okay, thank you very much. From our point of view, the challenges we are having, number one, information, adequate information on nutrition to the populace. Then two, socioeconomic status of Nigeria, then food security. What do I mean by adequate information? In Nigeria, we have a lot of nutritious, locally available foods. And there's not much information on how our people can make use of these available food sources. The economics, as I said, it's affecting everybody. We all know. And this will tell us that to food insecurity. And also, insecurity in Nigeria is another factor. Because of the insecurity in Nigeria, the majority of our farmers, they are afraid to go to farm. And when the farmers don't work, there will not be food for our people. So those are the few challenges I believe that is affecting.
So as a way of providing solution to these challenges, you have somehow woven these challenges together. Now, if we're trying to bridge the communication gap, you talked about how we can source our foods locally, but because the information is not there, we now have to buy more expensive food items that we may not necessarily be able to afford. I'd like to hear from you personally. How do we source our food locally, and what advice would you give in that regard, just so we're not at risk of spending so much in a bid to eating nutritional food?
Okay. Like for information aspect of it, we need to go down to the roots, to our farmers. We need to educate them on whatever they are producing. Because from some findings we've already made, the farmers produce a lot of locally available nutritious food, but at the end of it, they sell all out, all are sold out in the quest of making money to meet other, without them even storing some for themselves. So if they are made aware that as far as you are producing foodstuffs or crops, you need to keep some for your household, then sell all that, because majority of this cash crop, they will sell with the mind of having money to purchase spontaneous food. You understand? And there is a way we can talk to them also that within the community they can do trade by barter. If you are producing cocoyam today, the person that is fishing, you can exchange, thereby reducing the stress on our income. You understand? Then we also, information should go down also on proper preparation methods. You understand? Because there are a lot of vegetables in Nigeria, but then we are not getting the vitamins because of improper way of preparation. So if information should go down to the household, families, community on how to prepare these foods, then we are sure of not being below the standard. We can save our income, at the same time save our own nutrients to give us the adequate nutrient the body needs. Then in aspect of our government, we are talking about government, we're not talking about the high ranking, we're not talking about federal or anything. in local governments, in community, we have our stakeholders, like our chiefs and all those ones. Information can get down to them. That so, they can do this one to ensure that we have enough. Let's talk to everybody. You can have your own gardens. You can, anything you can produce around you, encourage them. It's rearing of animals or not, encourage them to do that. Then form a social club within each age group. Then nutrition education should be given to them. Then a lot of things. Money is not everything, but what you have, you can use it to get what you don't have. So all those information should step down. And also, we are talking about the community now. Let's look at our health sector. We are not talking about the federal or anything. Within our community, at the health centers, facilities, the information should go down to them, especially this maternal and infant and child nutrition. Most of the health workers, they don't really know the concept of that. So if it goes down to them, they'll be able to implement it and let other mothers know that. Let them know that exclusive breastfeeding is very important, because they don't need to buy anything. Her own is just to eat and let baby get it. For 6 months, you are free of diarrhea or anything if they do that. So if the information is stepped down, you are building a nation from conception. You understand? Because when we talk about maternal, infant and child nutrition, you're talking about from conception to adulthood. So if the information is stepped down from the health center to the community and to the household, definitely women will be happy to breastfeed for 6 months. And from there, move down to complementary. Use whatever that is around. You don't need to go and buy artificial food, artificial milk and all those ones. So if they have that education, definitely we'll have a strong nation. We may not depend on foreign things anymore.
I'm still going to come back to the nutrition education and also how we can maximize what we have so it doesn't affect our economy, let's say our value, monetary value. Now, I like for us to talk about food storage. You talked about food processing earlier. I like for us to talk about food storage because we know that most of the challenges, you mentioned farmers, how they need to practice better agriculture and how they also need to even cater to themselves also. And let's talk about many of the time people talk about how storage, especially when we're looking at perishable foods. They tell you that these has come to be a challenge for them. So because of that now, they are losing their food produce, crops and what they have gotten from their farmlands, and the little they now have, they have to now move from point A to point B to sell, and this now makes it more expensive. People are unable to buy them, and it affects our health in general because you're not able to eat food that contains the appropriate nutrition. So let's talk about storage and processing of foods, just so we save up on our food and then we don't have to spend so much.
Thank you very much. The aspect of storage also boils down to information, as I said earlier, because everything must be informed to know what to do. So the aspect of storage and preservation, and this time around I have to bring in the governments, federal governments, especially the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. In each of the state, local government, they all have their departments there. Why am I saying that is that, for example, let's take a perishable food item like tomatoes. Okay, information should be stepped down to the locals. During harvest period, the fresh ones are there. How do you preserve it? Locally, there are ways we preserve. We have to inform them. Like for tomatoes, there's a way you boil your tomatoes, dehydrate, remove all the water, and bottle. And then that bottle should be, how do you prepare the bottle? You understand? First of all, you have to put the bottle in a water, fill to the brim with hot water, and then boil for some time, remove it, and make sure nothing enters the bottle again. Then after boiling your tomatoes, you put it inside the bottle and cork. That one will take 1 year, nothing will happen. When it's cooked, you only remove when you want to use. Those are local ways to preserve tomatoes. So throughout the year, you have tomatoes. So if this information is stepped down, locally, people can, like me, I don't buy tomatoes all the time. When the time of plenty comes, that's what I do. Where there's no light, that's where you use this preservative. But when you have light, you can freeze your tomatoes anytime, pick it. I'm just using tomatoes as an example. Why should the federal government come and say now? Like Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, there are different departments. When it comes to preservation and storage, they can step by information to locals. Even those farmers, there is a way they can bring them to groups or what they call it, cooperative, that they can teach them how to store their different products, which I know they are capable of doing that. So if all this information is brought down to the grassroots, definitely we will not have waste. It's just that there's a gap. Information is not going down. If not, we have all those technological know-how in Federal Ministry of Agriculture just for us to step it down to preserve our food products.
Now, away from storage and processing and preservation, let us look at poor dietary quality, because it has formed part of the challenges that we're facing, that we're unable to achieve the target of nutritional value in our food system. I'd like to know, how do we boost this dietary quality so we reach optimum level?
Okay. All boils down also to information. You understand what I'm saying? Like, for example, I said earlier, your preparation matters. If you are going to cook and information is stepped down, like, for example, going to the market to purchase your vegetable, let me just use vegetable as an example. You don't allow the sellers, for example, let's take ugu as an example, pumpkin leaf as an example. You don't allow them to cut your vegetable in the market for you. Because by cutting vegetable in the market, it's not washed, number one, and then by exposing the inner part of it, where your vitamins and minerals and exposed to sun, definitely most of them will reduce. So we always counsel them, buy your vegetable like that, go home, first of all you wash everything out, then you now cut. When in your home there's not going to be sunlight that will reduce the quality of that nutrients, so you cut. Then when you are preparing your food, 2 minutes to drop, you put in your vegetable and stir. Cook, and so that you are having your nutrients complete. You understand? But when you cut in the market, you come and begin to wash, you remove all the nutrients, because there's what we call water soluble vitamins, which when they enter water, they dissolve in the water, and definitely when you discard water, you have taken it. So what the person is taking is just roughage or fiber, which may not even give you the vitamins, but just to make you satisfied. You understand what I'm saying? So that is it.
Now, just as a way of, clearing the air, let us know what is required of an average Nigerian, irrespective of your age, your gender, and every other ramification, the dietary intake that could account for, okay, so say we can now say you have consumed this certain food that has this so and so nutritional value, and it is enough, just about enough for your health.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I go into detail on this, we must remember there are some individuals with medical condition. So let's remove those ones aside. Let's look at the real people with that medical condition. Okay, like for example, in a day, for an adult, you understand, they're supposed to consume calorie of 1,800 to 2,200 kilocalories per day. And then like your protein, you're supposed to have about 9 kg. Then I know fat is 9 kg, the other one 544. You understand? So how do we achieve that? Like your carbohydrate, as I said, portioning is very okay. Like a portion cup has about 250 mils of that food. So before you give a portion, just say eat 1.5 cup and all those ones. I've already calculated that this one meets the individual meal. They will not spread it. That kilocalories, we spread it throughout the three meals. You understand? We don't sometimes count in between because they are all vitamins and they don't really give much, but they give what we need as fiber and all those ones. So we spread it along the 3 days thing. So for an average person, we can ask, instead of looking for cup, a fix can still help the person to, because you can't go to the vision and say, take this cup. But that cup is needed for those with medical condition. But you can use your fix as to swallow something. Then other things can go on. So how do we do it? Like for example, if you want somebody to have the real adequate meal for a day, as I said, the 5-star groups, you must make sure that there is protein in that food, in the 3 meals, even if you miss one, you understand? Other ones to augment for it. Okay, you have your carbohydrates. So all those ones should go, but you should spread them. You may have it heavy in the afternoon. Some people would like it heavy in the evening, so it is spread. And that boils down to information too. So during the process of passing information to them, all those things will be practicalized, what we call food demonstration. You do it and let them see what you are doing. So mere talking alone without demonstrating it, they may not really understand. So most of the time we go out for community awareness and all those. At the end of everything, you have to do food demonstration and show them how it is, and some of them will come join you to cook with it, and then before you know it, then you monitor them later, maybe a month after, you go around and see what is going on.
Okay, earlier you talked about the disease component of dietary intakes. Now this brings me to the aspect of the fact that when we don't consume this food, classes of food in the right amount, it exposes us to certain diseases.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from you as an expert, the kind of diseases that we're bound or we may be exposed to. And then also on the flip side, for those who are already presenting with these diseases, what kind of food would you now advise that they take?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's talk about overnutrition. What I mean by overnutrition is that when an individual is taking over what is expected of him, and there's no expedition being measured like that. What I mean is that somebody that's obese already is a disease condition. When you're overweight, it's a disease condition in a way that the organs in the system are overwhelmed. And obesity and let's say overnutrition, overweight may lead to other diseases in the system. So people like that, we need to use the portioning aspect of our nutrition. You understand? We portion their food accordingly. And people like that, sometimes you surprise people to say they eat 6 times a day. You'll be wondering, somebody that's overweight and all those. Yes, in the sense that we time their feeding. For example, breakfast now, that's okay, between 7 to 8:30, your breakfast is done. And there are things we calculate for the breakfast that at the end of that 7 to 8:30 is done. Definitely, there's a reduction in the intake. So between that 11 to 12, the person may feel hungry before the main lunch by 1 to 2:30. So that one we call in between. They will now put vegetables there for the person. Just a carrot on it, you just chew and then take your water. We sustain that person till that afternoon meal when we get another portion and all those ones. Then there's another in between. So all those ones are the one we put into consideration to reduce weight, because merely you reduce your weight. If you're overweight, definitely the system will not accommodate any distress of overeating or anything, and will still help the person to keep fit, and then any other disease will not come in. Then apart from that, there are different types of disease. I just made mention of overweight. Like if somebody has diabetes, we mentioned that one. Hypertension, we mentioned that one, because there are diets for different. Even fever, you have diet for it. So it's when you come one-on-one, and we believe that diet is individualized. You cannot give this Mr. A because he has diabetes the same. So when you are doing menu, or what they call diet therapy for an individual, you must take the diet history of that person, his like and dislike, so that you'll be able to, so that the food will not be too not appealing. So you must know what the person takes and what he doesn't like in food. Then you now bring them together, and at the end, we feel relaxed to eat what he has been eating, but in different form. You understand? So there are different diseases with different diet therapies. So you individualize. We don't do things together, that because this one has the ability to take the same thing. No.
So this brings me to the issue of malnutrition.
Okay, good.
Especially in northeast, regions in Nigeria that are prone to conflicts. We have children who are malnourished because of the volatility of the area, the region, and they are unable to have access to quality food. So I'd like to hear from you personally, not just even the children, even mothers, families. I'd like to hear from you. How do we, as a country, and in your capacity as an expert, what would you advise that how do we address this issue of malnutrition in Nigeria?
Okay. That one's also boiled down to nutrition. I mean, information. Okay, like those ones in Northeast, because I said initially that we have everything in Nigeria just because of insecurity in Nigeria, which leads to insecurity in food. You understand? Food security is not there. And then those people over there, what the federal government should do and what they are doing right now, majority of them are in displaced homes and all those ones. So, and I will know that there are a lot of organizations that are in charge of all these things. And the government has gone so far in making sure that these people has adequate nutrition. But what we stress on more is that whatever they are giving them there, they are nutritionists that are with the system, they are looking to it. And then during the process of all this ready-to-eat meal and all those ones, they put in consideration the nutrients, adequate nutrients in it. Apart from that, in displaced homes or camps, we encourage them within that place, if there are places for them to farm, we encourage them to farm, you understand? And those ones that are pregnant or have delivered, you still encourage them to carry out exclusive breastfeeding, which I know this mycin program is really working on, you understand? And in that process, health workers do go there to teach them the complementary aspect of feeding, both breastfeeding and all those. And those humanitarian are coming in, they come with adequate food. But apart from that, you understand, we need more hens. You understand? Farmers should be, those that are farmers before, they should be encouraged not to just depend on the government. Wherever they are camp, there is always land there. Encourage them to farm so that they will know the benefits. And what government is also doing is that from the Federal Ministry of Health is this mycin program that is maternal, infant and young child nutrition. They have their different methods of bringing out the information, which they be doing, and is giving an impact. Because last week I was in a cafe and went for a field walk, and I saw the impact there. We saw a lot of children malnourished, but then the percentage are not as high as I was expecting. And what is the result? Because of information. What the mothers can do with their hands. They should not depend on their husband too much. What you do is that you have this at home. With the little information, because the mothers I encountered there that time, we sat down and I discussed with her. I said, how do you feed your baby? He said, after 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, you understand, that the baby refused to eat, that just depend on the meal ready to eat being given to them at the clinic. So and I said, okay. I began to counsel. I said, look, what do you have at home? She told me she has pap, she has egg, she has vegetables. I said, okay, what do you do with this one? Say, baby don't eat. I said, okay, let's do something. And I put her through. So now, and I said, okay, let's demonstrate. We made the rice, vegetable, everything blend inside. And I said, sir, the baby will not eat. I said, let's just try. You know that baby finished that food. He said, hey. I said, oh, you have all this one at home, because the baby just said no. You just supersede that. Not. I encouraged her, she was so happy. You understand? So because she just depend on the paste given to her, just feel okay apart from that. And the baby is almost 1 year. And if you look at her, so the information is very great, and they've done a lot. So it's just to encourage government and also encourage them to let the mothers do the work. Like going to farm, or those who can farm, those who can sew. Like the other one said she can sew, but because baby is not eating. I said, no, baby will eat. The only is just to do it. And as you are feeding baby, feed yourself, let baby see you eating. All those kind of information helps. So I was so glad that majority of them took that one, and they were happy. You understand? The next day they came, they did the practical themselves.
Okay.
So
we know that we know the essence of consuming foods that have nutritional value, but in Nigeria today, there is always constraint, or there is a constraint of the socio-economic situation. And you talked about that earlier, but I'd like to hear from you. What would you recommend as the alternative? Now, when you go to the market, we have high cost of proteins. I mean, animal protein, the prices of meat, they have all skyrocketed. So what would you advise as alternatives for people to consume in the interim when these other sources of protein or other classes of food are on the high side?
Okay, thank you very much. As I said, I still talk about the plant protein. We should have the soya beans, we have the legumes, you understand, we have the nuts. All those ones are source of protein and edible fats. And apart from that, as I said earlier, information is very important. Like those in the villages or even in town, we can do our farming. Like we are talking about chicken, because we are depending on those who bring our come and sell. But we can have our own poultry, local chicken. Even if it's 4, you start with. At the end of it, you have something to eat. And apart from that, there are, as I said earlier, there are other fishes that are not too expensive like this. Like for example, if somebody should go and buy Titus fish, it's very high. But somebody can still buy what they call it, stockfish, lower. And then there are also other small dry fish, small ones that are just tiny, you can blend together. You understand? It's another source of protein. just encourage mothers to look for those ones. And then, as I said, snail rearing. No need to look for big snail. There are small snails that you can pick. Periwinkle is there. You understand what I'm saying? And then we have all these worms that are proteinous that you can eat. All these fly insects and all those ones. Those are sets of protein, and we have them in the market. Those ones, you use cups to buy them, and those ones, they are very cheap. But when you look at the high parts, you'll be so sitting. No, look at those ones. They still give you source of protein, especially these insects. Very nice. You know, buy a cup of it, you can do something, or make tofu out of your soya milk. You can make some. Most of our patients, we always refer tofu to them, and we practicalize it. So when they taste, say, this thing is good. And there are other sorts of, like now, some people say yam is expensive, but there's what we call squash, kabewa. It's another source of, if you don't want to eat yam, kabewa is there. You can use it. You understand? Rice is very expensive, but in the north here we have cauliflower. You understand? That cauliflower is very good. It's when we make it, we call it cauliflower rice. Alternative, we have a lot. So in the northern part here, we are lucky. It's only the south you cannot buy cauliflower like that very cheap. But if you go to market with 500 naira, you have a big cauliflower. You can talk to your rice flour. Just add your what they call it, carrots. And you're okay, you're good to go. You understand?
Okay, just as a way of rounding up, and just for you to conclude with on this note, I'd like to hear from you. How do we ensure that we consume the vital and essential nutrients in our foods, say from breakfast to lunch to dinner, just as an average Nigerian?
Okay, as an average Nigerian, as I said earlier on, you can get your 3 square meal from the 5-star listing within your system. If you have, let me just be practical. If you have like 2,000 naira, you can make a good meal. That if you want to depend on buying, you can make a good meal. How? For example, you can buy your ugu. If you want to make ugu, you can buy your ugu, 500 naira ugu. You understand? Let's say family of 4, 500 naira ugu. You can buy your plantain. That's about 6 of it. You have 1,000 naira unripe plantain. You can buy your soya beans or beans, your legume, like beans now. You can buy maybe 2 cups or so. Even 1 mudu. 1 mudu is how much now? 1,000 something of beans. How much have we used now? You understand what I'm saying? So bring this one together as porridge beans with unripe plantain. You have gotten something for 3 family under within 2,000, 2,005. You don't need to buy fish. Your beans is there. Your vegetable is there. Palm oil, it's just a drop also, is there. Plantain is there for iron. So before you know it, you have gotten an adequate diet. Then let's talk about your breakfast. There's what we call in the north here, what we call, whether I will pronounce this or I don't know, kunujida. I don't know whether I pronounce it. So kunujida means your rice and your granules. You soak, blend together. You can add your turmeric, you understand? You can add your sugar if you want a taste of it, or ginger. You are good to go. If you look at it, it's blended. Your breakfast, they can use your bean cake or momo. You've got an adequate diet. So before you know, step it down. Your 5-star diet is them very with local this that if you want to buy. But if you have your local garden, backyard garden, you can use sack of cement to even produce your yam. You understand? Your vegetables, just go there, pluck, and add to whatever you have at home.
Well, there you have it. You have heard from the experts. To achieve nutritional standards, we must begin to look at alternative sources, just so we go away from the high cost of food that we have in our markets today. On that note, we've come to the end of this episode of the program, Healthy Living on Trust Television. For comments, contributions and suggestions, do well to follow us across all of our social media platforms. Until I come your way on another episode, I'm Aisha Salihu. Thank you so much for watching.